and then Good afternoon, everyone. I'll now call this meeting of the National EMS Advisory Council to order. Thank you, representatives, for joining us for the first meeting of the 2026 session of the NEMSAC. It's good to see you all. My name is Gam Tunga. I'm director of the Office of Emergency Medical Services here at the DOT at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C. I have the distinct honor of serving as NEMSAC's designated federal officer, or DFO, and I'll be serving as your moderator until a chairperson is appointed by the Secretary of Transportation. First order of business today is to offer a warm welcome to all the newly appointed NEMSAC representatives and also to those of you from the national EMS community who are joining us via live stream. And of course, happy EMS week as well. Today is the only meeting day for this convening of NEMSAC, and we'll proceed with it following the agenda. Moving forward, all future NEMSAC meetings will be held via virtual format, and each of our representatives will be joining from their locations across the country. As the business of NEMSAC grows, the meetings will eventually extend to 2 days. Customarily, we've given NEMSAC representatives time to meet in their respective subcommittees in the mornings to prepare for the full NEMSAC council meetings in the afternoon on designated meeting days. This method has a twofold purpose. Number one, to give the subcommittee members the opportunity to make final edits before presenting their advisories in progress. And number two, to accommodate those in time zones west of us to join at a reasonable hour. During today's meeting, we'll observe parliamentary processes outlined in Robert's Rules of Order. Representatives, please always remember this is a public meeting, and to please hold your questions and comments until the floor is open for discussion and or the chair recognizes you. At a later time during the meeting, we'll recognize each of you. I would like for each of you to introduce yourself by telling us your name, where you're located, and the sector you represent. If you feel inclined, you may share a little bit about your background, but I'd ask that you just try to keep it brief because we do have a full agenda today. And speaking of the agenda, there is a designated time on the agenda for public questions and comments. During the public comment period, the floor will be open for questions or statements from the public. If we're addressing business when the public comment period is upon us, I'll ask for discussion to pause so we may observe the public comment period at the designated time. Now, I'd like to take a moment and introduce the administrator of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Jonathan Morrison. Jonathan serves as the administrator of NHTSA after his confirmation by the U.S. Senate on September 18th of 2025. He's a seasoned legal and policy expert in the automotive sector, and previously served as NHTSA's chief counsel from 2017 to 2021, where he oversaw legal services for the agency's vehicle and traffic safety programs. Most recently, before returning to federal service, he led legal, regulatory, and policy affairs for Apple's Special Projects Group, following roles as president of Auto Advisory Services and director of legal and regulatory affairs for the California New Car Dealers Association. He has extensive experience in public safety, defined by his leadership in developing federal regulatory frameworks for automated vehicles, enforcing vehicle fuel economy standards, and managing national 911 and EMS programs, as you all know. Morrison's commitment to public health is reflected in his Pathways to Safer Streets initiative, which focuses on reducing the human cost of roadway crashes through behavioral traffic safety and the implementation of technologies like the HALT drunk driving law. Jonathan holds a bachelor's degree in philosophy and music from the University of Pittsburgh, a JD from the Notre Dame Law School, and a Master of Laws in International Business Law from University College London. So, on that note, Administrator Morrison has joined us today to provide opening remarks and also to administer the oath of office to everyone on the NEMSAC. So, I'd like to recognize Administrator Morrison.
Thank you, Gam. I am so pleased to welcome you to our reconstituted National EMS Advisory Council and to extend my sincere congratulations to our newly appointed members. You have been selected to serve on NEMSAC because of your deep expertise in emergency medical services. The practical experience you bring to this council will be invaluable as you advise both the Secretary of Transportation and FICOMS, the Federal Interagency Committee on EMS. It's fitting that we're holding this meeting and swearing in our new members during EMS week. We honor and thank EMS clinicians nationwide for the incredible work that they do every day to help their neighbors in need. EMS is there during the worst moment of people's lives, and the skills and knowledge you bring to each scene can make all the difference for patients. This year's EMS week slogan is improving outcomes together. And I think that goes for NEMSAC as well. We're looking to you to offer advice and recommendations to help improve survivability for crash patients and others in need of emergency care. NHTSA and the entire U.S. Department of Transportation recognize the vital role that post-crash care plays in reducing deaths and injuries on our nation's roads. NHTSA recently released our landmark Pathways to Safer Streets plan, which is a bold initiative to save lives. This plan has 8 pathways, one of which is post-crash care, and with a special emphasis on pre-hospital blood transfusion. It always shocks me to repeat this, but 43% of our highway fatalities were alive when first responders arrived at the scene. And administering pre-hospital blood transfusions to crash victims in the field can reduce deaths by 37%. This represents an enormous opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity to save lives, and we are working with a sense of urgency to help support the establishment of more of these programs across the country. FICOMS is very interested in this issue and is working across many agencies to advance pre-hospital blood transfusions. Agencies involved include the Federal Communications Commission, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of War, the Department of Homeland Security, and of course, the Department of Transportation. We would be interested in hearing from you about this important issue, especially any barriers that may prevent or hinder national scalability of these programs. Over the next year, we expect you to share your thoughts, your ideas, your solutions for how we can innovate the way we care for crash victims and other patients. The status quo simply won't help us save the nearly 40,000 people killed each year on our nation's roads. Your work matters, and your advice can help us make all the difference for someone injured in a crash. We're expecting big, bold things from this committee in the coming months, and I look forward to hearing your advice and recommendations. But first, it is now my privilege to administer the oath of office to our new representatives. I won't ask you to stand because I might see if somebody's wearing shorts instead of pants here, but please do raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of which I am about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations and thank you for your willingness to serve and provide your expertise and experience. Now, I'll turn it back over to Gam to introduce the members and proceed with the rest of our agenda.
Thank you, Administrator Morrison. Much appreciated. Thank you for your remarks and of course, administering the oath of office. We'll now proceed to introductions and disclosures of conflicts of interest. Representatives, I will state the name of each sector of EMS represented, and when I call out the name of the sector you represent, please unmute to activate your microphone, introduce yourself by name, location, and then please declare any conflicts of interest you may have. So we'll kick it off. Air Medical EMS.
Good afternoon. My name is Keith McMahon. I'm Senior Director of Penn State Health Lifeline. I am based in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And I am a former Maryland State Trooper for 25 years and the former commander of Maryland State Police Aviation Command. I have no identified conflicts.
Thank you, Mr. McGinn. And your audio, at least on my end, was a little bit weak, but I was able to hear you. So maybe just for everyone on the line as we go down, just lean in a little bit close to that mic. Thank you again, Mr. McGinn. All right, moving on to consumers.
Mr. Bledsoe acknowledged he wouldn't be able to join us today. He's in the air. He's flying.
Thank you, Clary. And for folks who haven't met Clary before, Clary Mole, my trusted right hand and the one who makes all the magic happen here on NEMSAC. All right. Data management officials.
Good afternoon, Juan Mejias, Customer Success Manager with ESO, about 15 years in industry through air medical operations, different areas. Currently co-chair of the Quality and Safety Committee as well for NAMSP. No current conflicts of interest identified.
Thank you, Mr. Mejias. Emergency management officials. I think that's Dustin Calhoun. Dustin, if you're on mute, please unmute. We can circle back around later. Moving on, emergency nurses.
Hello, everyone. Teresa Wyndham from Mississippi, and I have no conflicts. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Ms. Wyndham. Emergency physicians.
Hey, good afternoon. I believe that's me. Hey, Jerry Allison here. I'm in Dallas, represented emergency medicine physicians, and I don't believe I have any conflicts of interest.
Thank you, Jerry. EMS clinicians.
Good afternoon. George Aguilera, Deputy Chief of EMS for North Collier Fire, calling from Naples, Florida, and I have no conflicts of interest.
Thank you. EMS educators.
I'm Richard Rhodes from Georgia, and I have no conflicts to declare.
Thank you. EMS physicians.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicholas Cozy. I'm an emergency physician and an EMS physician in the city of Chicago and in New York City. Happy EMS week. Look forward to working with you. Thank you, Gam.
Thank you. EMS researchers.
Morning, guys. Angela Cornelius coming to you out of Fort Worth, Texas. I'm the Associate System Medical Director for the Fort Worth system. And actually, I chair the Emergency Preparedness Committee for NAMSP as well, and former chair of the Disaster Committee for ASAP. I do a lot of research in my spare time, and I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you. Fire-based EMS.
Good morning, Derek Bergston from Poudre Fire Authority of Fort Collins, Colorado, and I do not have any conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Hospital administration.
Hey everyone, Bill Leggio, representing hospital administration based here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where I serve Mayo Clinic Health System as an administrator for our emergency departments, our level 2 trauma center, urgent care, and command center. No conflicts of interest.
Hospital-based EMS.
Good morning, everyone. Art Samaras from the great state of New Jersey. I've always wanted to say that. 25 years of being a clinician, both on the ground and in the air. Recently stepped down from a leadership role, and I'm back to just being a clinician, and I'm loving every minute of it. Happy EMS week. Looking forward to working with everybody as well, and no conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you. Local EMS officials.
Hi, my name is Mordechai Tversky. I'm from Lakewood, New Jersey. I've been an EMT for 25 years with Hatzalah of Central Jersey. I'm also one of the Ocean County EMS coordinators, and I sit on the advisory board of New Jersey OEMS.
Thank you. Pediatric emergency physicians.
Hi, everybody. Shay During. I'm a pediatric emergency medicine physician, EMS physician here in Birmingham, Alabama. Also serve as the Assistant State Medical Director for Pediatrics for EMS for our Office of EMS. Happy EMS week to everybody. Looking forward to working with everybody. I have no conflicts to disclose at this time.
Thank you. Private EMS.
Thanks, Gam. Good afternoon, everyone. Mike Thomas, Beckley, West Virginia. Happy EMS week. I do sit on the board of the American Ambulance Association, and that sometimes could become a conflict. Thanks again, Gam.
Thank you, Mike. Public health officials.
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. I'm Geraldine Jones. I'm an EMS physician hailing from the great state of Arkansas. I serve as the state EMS medical director at the Arkansas Department of Health, and I practice clinically at UAMS, which is the state's adult-only level 1 trauma center. I have no conflicts to disclose, and happy EMS week, everyone.
Thank you. Quality improvement officials.
Hey everyone, I'm Crystal Shelnut. I'm from the Athens, Georgia area, and I work for the Georgia Trauma Commission, and I'm a paramedic, and I don't have any conflicts to disclose.
Thank you. State EMS officials.
Steve McCoy. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. I serve as the Director of Emergency Preparedness and Community Support for the Florida Department of Health. Been on several boards, including FICAM, so looking forward to serving and seeing what we can do together. And no conflicts.
Thank you. State highway safety officials.
Good morning, everyone. Danny Locke here with the from the great state of Tennessee, and I'm the post-crash care coordinator for the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, and no conflicts.
Thank you. State or local legislators.
Good afternoon, everybody. Representative Mark Hart from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I've got 10 years experience as a legislator, and I got 30 plus years experience as a paramedic in EMS and fire-based services. Looking forward to working with everybody.
Thank you. Trauma surgeons.
Hi, everybody. Peter Fisher, Trauma Medical Director from Washington Regional Medical Center in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Also serve on the COT, on the National Committee on Trauma, and former chair of the EMS Committee for the National Committee on Trauma. Super happy to be here.
Thank you. Tribal EMS.
Good morning or afternoon to some of you. My name is Eric Emery. I'm from the Rosebud Sioux Tribe. I represent Rosebud Sioux Tribe Ambulance Service, which is one of the very first tribal EMSs here in the United States. I'm also a state legislator here in South Dakota that serves in the House of Representatives. I have no conflicts, and this is my second appointment to the NEMSAC. I served from 2015 to 2020, so pleasure to be back. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. And then volunteer EMS.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Turley. I've served in public safety for 30 years. Currently an advanced EMT, director of Delhi EMS and Rescue Squad here in Lower Alabama. Also serve as our advocacy coordinator for NAMT. just glad to be here and looking forward to working with my colleagues. Happy EMS week and no conflicts of interest.
Wonderful. Thank you. If you are counting, you may have noticed that we introduced only 24 of the 25 NEMSAC sectors. So we are working on a final appointment for the state and local 911 officials representative. We anticipate that that person will be appointed very soon. So our goal is for our next meeting in August, we'll have the entire council of all 25 fully appointed. So just a note there. All right. Moving on, and we are ahead of schedule. I thought I was speaking slowly, actually. We're going to move on to the approval of the NEMSAC meeting minutes from November 6th and 7th of 2024. Representatives, you should have had time to review a digital copy of the summary of the last NEMSAC meeting. We're following Robert's Rules of Order, so we don't need a motion here, only a vote. But before we vote to approve these minutes as records, as a record, are there any corrections or amendments to the record? Any corrections or amendments? Third and final call. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the record, please unmute and say aye.
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 All those opposed, please unmute and say nay. Okay, if you're abstaining from the vote, please indicate now. All right. Representatives, we've extended an invitation to our FICM's representatives, that's the Federal Interagency Committee on EMS, to come and offer an introduction of themselves, their offices, and their priorities as they relate to EMS. Before I turn the floor over to them, I want to give you a brief history of FICMs. And I think for folks who know me, they know I'm quite the history buff. So Clary, I'll rely on you to reel me in if I go too deep here. But just some brief background on FICMs. It was established by Congress in 2005, so it's a statutory committee. FICMs aims to enhance coordination and ensure the strategic alignment of EMS priorities among federal agencies to improve the delivery of EMS throughout the nation and ensure quality patient care. Specifically, under statute, FICMs exist to, number one, ensure coordination among the federal agencies involved with each of the state, local, tribal, or regional EMS and 911 systems. Two, to identify state, local, tribal, or regional EMS and 911 needs. Three, to recommend new or expanded programs, including grant programs for improving state, local, tribal, or regional EMS and implementing improved EMS communications technologies, including wireless 911. Four, to identify ways to streamline the process through which federal agencies support state, local, tribal, or regional EMS. Five, assist state, local, tribal, or regional EMS in setting priorities based on identifying needs, and to advise, consult, and make recommendations on matters relating to the implementation of the coordinated state EMS programs. So after its establishment in 2005, 2 years later, in April of 2007, NEMSAC was established as a nationally recognized council of EMS representatives to provide advice and recommendations regarding EMS to both the Secretary of the Department of Transportation and to FICOMs through the NHTSA Office of EMS. So it's therefore important for you as members of the council to realize that your advisory recommendations are of extreme importance, both to us and also to FICOMs and the Department of Transportation. So we have several FICOMs members joining us today. I know we're running a little bit ahead of schedule, but Clary will help me with queuing these folks up. I want to give each of the FICOMs members an opportunity to introduce themselves and their agency and talk about how they're involved with FICOMs. In order to keep the meeting running in an orderly fashion, I'll state the name of the representative department and agency, if applicable, and pause to allow the representative to speak. So, starting with the Department of War.
I do not believe Tracy Lattimore was able to join us, so we can proceed.
All right. Thank you, Clary. And yeah, that's Tracy Lattimore. She's the Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary of War. And hope to have her at a future meeting. All right, moving on, Department of Health and Human Services. And we'll start with the Health Resources and Services Administration, HRSA.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia Arias, and I'm joining from Rockville, Maryland. Happy EMS for Children's Day. I am with HRSA Maternal and Child Health Bureau's Emergency Medical Services for Children program. HRSA's mission is to improve health outcomes through access to quality services, a skilled health workforce, and innovative programs. Our specific EMSC program serves this mission by ensuring that our nation's emergency departments and EMS agencies are well prepared to care for children. Research shows that our work has the potential to save as many as 2,100 children's lives annually. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Moving on through HHS, the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, ASPR.
Hello. First, congratulations to newly appointed members. Appreciate your willingness to serve. My name is Jonathan Green. I'm the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Center for Response within ASPR. We manage a number of programs that have impact in the EMS arena, but we also are the lead federal agency for Emergency Support Function 8 under the National Response Framework, as well as the Health, Education, and Human Services Recovery Support Function under that applicable guidance as well. One of the areas within our agency that touches EMS most is our hospital preparedness program, where we make sure that EMS has a seat at the table and a voice in healthcare coalitions across this nation, and is recognized as an essential part of healthcare systems and public health, particularly in disaster scenarios. And thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, John. Continuing with HHS, next up we have the Indian Health Service.
Again, unfortunately, Dr. Loretta Christensen could not join us today.
Thank you, Clary. And that's Loretta Christensen, the Chief Medical Officer for IHS. All right, continuing with HHS, next we have the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC.
Hi, Gam. You may remember me from our grant coordination days a long time ago. To all, my name is Todd Talbert. I work in the Office of Readiness Response, Division of State and Local Readiness, and we work at the intersection of public health and the healthcare system, and EMS is represented within our program through the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Cooperative Agreement, which is really the largest domestic funding program at the CDC, and it's to build capacity for public health preparedness and response. Thanks, Gam. I don't know if you remember, but it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, Todd. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Next up, in HHS, we have the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. This is Rodney Walterstorff. I am the Deputy Director for the Emergency Preparedness and Response Operations. It's an office within CMS. It's known as EPRO. So EPRO does the direction and coordination for CMS programs for continuity of operations, pandemic, any sort of emergency preparedness and response and recovery. We work not just with our agency, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, but we also work with HHS and other federal departments, agencies, beneficiaries, of course, healthcare providers, suppliers, and any other stakeholders to carry out all of our programs and our mission. So our goal, our responsibility is to establish policies, procedures, and any sort of operational plans, and to make sure that we're testing and evaluating these programs ultimately to benefit our beneficiaries. So thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rodney. So we finished with HHS, and now we'll move on to the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and we'll kick it off with the Office of Health Security.
It does not appear we have a representative from the Office of Health Security joining us today, Gam.
All righty. And normally that would be Kate Elkins. So she's director of the division of EMS. So we'll hope to see her at future meetings. Next, within DHS, we have the United States Fire Administration, USFA.
Appears the same is true for USFA.
All right. And normally that's our friend Rick Patrick up in Emmitsburg. We'll hope to have him at a future meeting. Moving on to the Federal Communications Commission, FCC.
No representative present, nor proxy.
Okay. Normally that's David Firth, who's the Deputy Chief for Public Safety and Homeland Security. And finally, rounding out our FICOMS members, we have the State EMS Director, who serves on FICOMS is a statutory member. And we'll see if Liz Bassnett is on the line.
I don't think Liz was able to join us, but I see that Kate is main appearance from DHS.
Kate, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, and I'm so sorry to be late. My name is Kate Elkins. I'm the EMS Division Director here in the Office of Health Security for the Department of Homeland Security. And we cover EMS and all the components of Homeland Security. Very happy to be here and excited to see the new NEMSAC and collaborate with you all as we move forward.
Thank you, Kate. Good to see you. All right. So we do have, we are moving at a fair clip. We have a break on the agenda scheduled at 1:15 Eastern. Claire, your advice. I'm fine actually to proceed with what we have after the break, which is just my intro to the office and discussion of some of our priorities. Does that work?
That works for me, and I believe I don't see any dissent among the NEMSACers, so let's move it.
Yeah. Any objections to zooming ahead in the schedule here? And if not, I'm going to do a screen share. We'll see how my tech skills work. This might put us behind schedule. Let's see. Okay. Claire, is that coming through?
Not seeing anything yet.
Wait, hold on.
Oh,
there, I hit the final button. All
There we are.
right. So I'll actually probably move fairly quickly for folks, but council members, if you have questions, feel free to chime in or raise your digital hand. All right, so as you heard our administrator mention, specifically when we focus on post-crash care and looking at crash fatalities in the United States, when we've at NHTSA, when we've looked at our fatality data that's reported by the states to through the Fatality Analysis and Reporting System, or FARS, when we looked at 2023 alone, there were 41,000 people that died on U.S. roadways. And of those, 43% were still alive when first responders arrived. And we found, when we've looked at multiple years of FARS data, that percentage is really fairly consistent. It's hovered around that 40% mark for a few years. And so, as our administrator has mentioned before, there's opportunity for innovation here. But let's bring that number even down further. I think it's fitting. It is EMS for Children Day, and the impact on children throughout the country is significant. Just in 2021 alone, there were 1,129 children that died in traffic crashes. And of those, 55% were still alive when EMS arrived on the scene. And I know I don't have to speak to these council members, given your experience, about the burden that places on communities and everyone involved in the system response to these fatalities. As our administrator talked about, NHTSA's major initiative heading forward that was just announced recently, earlier this year, is what's called Pathways to Safer Streets. So there are a number of interventions that at a national scale we need to apply to bring these fatality numbers down and to bring those injury numbers down as well. Distracted driving, impaired driving, engaging law enforcement for traffic enforcement activities, increasing belt use and other occupant protection, including child seats, reducing excessive speeding on our roadways, and then mobilizing national partners and leveraging our relationships at the state level between state highway safety offices and all state partners. And then, of course, pre-hospital blood transfusion is the major initiative that NHTSA is leading alongside our federal partners on FICMs. We have seen the data, and it is a powerful intervention that we want to help expand across the country. I know that for some of you, I'm preaching to the choir here, and this is you've heard about this before, but it never hurts to reiterate what we're seeing when it comes to pre-hospital blood transfusion. So getting this intervention to the side of patients quickly. As I think folks know, if you're injured, severe bleeding is the primary cause of death for an injury, and that bleeding can happen. That fatal bleed can happen very quickly. So time is critical, and every minute of delay to administering blood increases the risk of death. A joint statement put out just a few years ago by the National Association of EMS Physicians, the American College of Emergency Physicians, and the American College of Surgeons estimated that pre-hospital blood transfusion could reduce trauma mortality by 37%. There are few interventions that at least that I've seen in my career that could potentially have such impact. So there, for agencies that have implemented pre-hospital blood transfusion, we have heard just dramatic improvements in survival, not only from crashes, but from other causes of injury, as well as medical problems as well, such as obstetric bleeds. So at NHTSA, we see just the enormous potential and the impact that this could have on crash mortality in the United States. And that's why we are investing so much effort in supporting pre-hospital blood transfusion, and continue to collaborate with our federal partners as well. In fact, you probably know we have a FICMS meeting coming up tomorrow on Save a Life Day, where blood transfusion will be a big topic of discussion. Blood is a powerful intervention, but we know that it takes a system of care to save patients. I like to say that when I'm talking about crash patients, I like to keep this simple. This system is about finding the crash, caring for the victim, getting them to the right hospital, and then improving that system of care constantly. But this approach, this system of care, as I think you all know, works for a wide range of emergency conditions. The approach is very similar. So when we say find the crash, we talk about the importance of 911 and the use of emergency medical dispatch by 911, as well as bystander care. And 911 is really that critical link to bystanders to provide life-saving care at the scene before EMS arrives. So what we refer to as pre-arrival instructions by 911 are really important. Timely on-scene care. Again, in this case, if we're talking about blood, getting blood transfusion to these critically bleeding victims quickly makes a big difference. And obviously, there's other clinical interventions that have to happen as well. And then finally, triage and transport. If we're talking about trauma victims, using things like the ACS trauma triage guidelines to get them to an appropriate trauma center. And for other emergency conditions, using appropriate guidelines to get these patients to the right hospital. Here up on the screen, we have definitive care at a trauma center, but definitive care can take many different forms. Again, it's about a system of care that I know you all are very, very familiar with. Within the Office of EMS here at NHTSA, using the Pathways to Safer Streets plan as our North Star, there are things that we are focusing on to see that the right care is getting to the patients that need it in a timely manner. So we have really three priorities that we're focusing on this year. Number one is to increase the number of U.S. counties and jurisdictions with pre-hospital blood transfusion programs. Nationally, we're just shy of 400 programs, and we've seen incredible growth in that area. But we have a long ways to go. As you all know, there's thousands of agencies in a big country that we need to get this intervention out to. So we're working very closely with our national partners to make this happen. Number two, again, it's appropriate that this is EMS for Children Day. We are laser focused on kids and increasing the percentage of kids that receive a pre-hospital blood transfusion when in shock after a crash. Here at NHTSA, when I say kids, I'm referring to kids between the ages of 0 and 14. Obviously, we all want to work together to get the intervention to everyone that needs it. When it comes to measurement, this is one of the things that we're focused on, and I hope to talk to NEMSAC in greater detail in our next meeting about this. And then 3, increasing the delivery of 911 pediatric shock pre-arrival instructions to bystanders. The performance of 911 is critical. If we don't start off on a good foot for these critical patients, it's hard to recover. So this is the third area that we're paying very close attention to. I talk about those strategic priorities, but let's bring it down to the patient level. And I know all of you, have personal experiences. You can tell you can talk about when it comes to patients injured in crashes, whether it's the patients you treated or family members. We've all experienced this. Has all touched our lives, but I like to. At a FICMS meeting we hosted here in DC last year, we had guests from the Colorado Springs Fire Department talk about a patient that they treated. This was an 8-year-old boy who was hit by a car. His initial blood pressures, systolic blood pressure, was in the 50s, unconscious, only responsive to pain. Multiple fractures across his body. And in Colorado Springs, this was about over 2 years ago now. This is one of a small handful of jurisdictions that were doing blood transfusion at the time. So certainly getting hit by the car the day was not going well for this young boy, but he was fortunate to be in a jurisdiction that was able to provide him a blood transfusion within 7 minutes. And he was discharged alive from the hospital 2 weeks later. I'm still an active paramedic. I've run a lot of calls during my career, and I've run patients like this. Unfortunately, I've never seen them survive. So I keep this story always in the back of my mind, because we are seeing more stories like this from jurisdictions that have started doing blood transfusion, and they're making not only a lasting difference on the patients, but clearly a lasting difference on everyone involved in their care. To be able to prevent a death here is obviously an experience you take with you for the rest of your life. We have some gaps that we need to address as a nation. I talked about the importance of EMD and pre-arrival instructions. There are about 5,500 PSAPs in the United States. And they're of varying capability. Unfortunately, our most recent data that we collected here at NHTSA indicated that of those 5,500 PSAPs, only 43% of them were capable of providing EMD or some type of protocolized dispatch. So our most recent data indicates that the majority of the PSAPs in this country are not yet EMD capable. So I always appreciate further discussion from NEMSAC on this issue. Talking further about data, so I'll actually just bounce back real quick. These strategic priorities that we're focusing on here in the Office of EMS at NHTSA, our intent and what we're working on and we'll be sharing with NEMSAC in the future is we are using data from the national database of NEMSIS, of the National EMS Information System, to measure the nation's progress in these 3 areas. So we work very closely with the NEMSIS Technical Assistance Center, as well as all our state partners, on seeing what the data is showing us in these 3 areas. And when it comes to EMD, there is a EMD data element within NEMSIS. I'll talk about in just a sec. It is something that can be measured through NEMSIS data. Blood specifically, folks may be aware that late 2025, really throughout all of 2025, the National Association of State EMS Officials, or NASEMSO, was working on national guidance for its members on how to appropriately document a blood transfusion in the field. for everyone who's listening on the line. I think the importance of documentation, of accurate documentation, cannot be understated. This is what allows us to measure progress, and also to provides the backbone for EMS research in the United States. We really rely on accurate documentation in the field. So those strategic priorities that I talked about earlier, when we look at NEMSIS, here is the data that we are using at the national level to measure progress. These are the actual NEMSIS codes for you data nerds out there. eDispatch 02, which is the documentation of pre-arrival instructions provided to patients. eProcedures 03, documenting a blood transfusion as an intervention. eMedications 03, documenting the blood product transfused. And then eOutcome 01, the ED disposition, and eOutcome 02, the hospital disposition. A lot of challenges at looking at this data at a national level. What we are doing at a national level is having really frequent, near constant conversations with our state partners, not only around instances where there might be missing data, but of course the challenges around data linkage, which we do see when it comes to both the e-outcomes elements as well as the e-dispatch elements. So we're having a lot of discussions at the national level about how we improve patient outcome data linkage with our partners, and also how we work better with 911, particularly on the issue of CAD integration to improve that eDispatch 02 data. Those conversations I know are important to really to driving change. I'll pivot for a minute. It's not really a pivot. I talked briefly about some of the gaps and challenges we're facing in moving pre-hospital blood transfusion forward. But there is an opportunity for resources to actually help fill that gap. I did not update this slide. There's not 3 weeks left to apply. There is 6 days left to apply for SS4A, the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. So SS4A, if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to the SS4A website. There is a ton of resources to assist you if you're interested in applying for this grant program. It is a unique opportunity. The last year of this program, there's just under $1 billion available in funding for this notice of funding opportunity, which closes at 5 p.m. Eastern on May 26th. It is never too late. I realize 6 days would be a scramble, but it is possible. These are actually fairly short applications, particularly if you are applying for a planning and demonstration grant within SS4A. There's about $330 million or so available for planning and demonstration grants. And if you dive into that NOFO, it specifically states that DOT is placing a priority on public safety infrastructure for post-crash care, emergency response coordination, and pre-hospital blood transfusion activities. That NOFO clearly recognizes the importance of a system of care when it comes to preventing death from crashes. So localities and metropolitan planning organizations are eligible to apply. I encourage you to have conversations with your partners about this program, and also go to the SS4A website and see where there's existing grantees who are doing work right now that could use help when it comes to post-crash care. So I'll pause for a minute and just see if any other folks need to scan that QR code. If you have any questions, we have an email inbox up on the screen as well. You can drop an email too. And all right. I think I'm good on time, right, Clary?
That's right. You're good.
All right. On that note, let me just take a breath, take a sip of coffee, and see if any of the council members have any questions. All right. Clary, I'm gonna hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, sir. Let me get it pulled up real quick. All right. Sorry to share my last vacation spot. Hang on one second. I'll get my presentation for you. All right. Everybody able to see NEMSAC logo?
Yes.
All right. So I'm here to talk to you guys about the purpose of NEMSAC. Whenever I do travels with the Office of EMS, we meet with other folks, and still there's a lot of folks out there that really don't know what the National EMS Advisory Council is or does. So this is information I usually share in an orientation session with just me and the NEMSAC representatives. But I thought it would be important for me to also share this information with the public, so everybody can understand a little bit more about NEMSAC, what it is and what it does. By the way, my name is Clary Mole. I'm the EMS specialist at NHTSA's Office of Emergency Medical Services. NEMSAC and FICOMS are both under my purview. I serve as the program manager for both those programs and a sundry of other things. Essentially, whatever GAM tells me to do, I can do. I do it. So on behalf of the Office of EMS and myself, welcome to NEMSAC. We're excited that we have appointments and we're ready to get down to business and ready to assist you with getting down to business as well. So before NEMSAC, there were multiple organizations out there that were providing assistance and, advice. If you remember what GAM's discussion earlier when we talked about the history of FICOMS, it was established in 2002, but NEMSAC didn't come around until 2007. So the federal government for those 2 years was getting advice from every avenue. Everybody was sending public comment in, but there was no formal way of getting information from the public and having it filter through to the federal government in a clear, concise, unbiased, and official recommendation pathway. Since NEMSAC was established, it became the single identified body to serve as that defined mechanism for giving feedback to the federal government. It provides a neutral forum during which deliberations can be had about national issues. We're going to open the floor up a little bit later and allow the NEMSAC representatives to deliberate over possibilities for the future as far as advisories go. This committee elevates the national stature of EMS, and it has served as a resource for the federal government where we can actually reach out to someone and get consultation, advice, and recommendations for how to manage federal programs. So as we said, NEMSAC was established back in 2007. It was formed then by the Secretary of Transportation, and at the time it was a discretionary federal advisory committee full of EMS representatives and consumers. In 2012, however, it was reestablished in statute. So Congress reestablished NEMSAC. The statute is called Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century. We abbreviate it as MAP 21 when we reference it. It made NEMSAC statutory and a non-discretionary committee. Essentially, it would take an act of Congress for NEMSAC to be dissolved. So NEMSAC operates under the authority of Section 31108 in MAP 21. And under that statute, it establishes that the Secretary of Transportation is going to work in coordination with the Secretaries of Health and Human Services and the Department of Homeland Security to form NEMSAC. But now that it's formed, it's supposed to always going to be composed of 25 members to represent the sectors of EMS. NHTSA was called to provide the administrative support in the statute. The chairperson is supposed to be selected annually, and there's supposed to be an annual report of activities that take place with NEMSAC throughout the year sent to the Secretary of Transportation for review. Under the same authority, the purpose of NEMSAC is called out. It says it's to serve as a nationally recognized council of EMS representatives through which the government can get advice and consultation. You are to provide your advice and consultation specifically to the members of FICOMs. We went over those a little bit earlier. I'll go those one more time. And to the Secretary of Transportation on matters that relate to transportation as they relate to EMS. One thing that's not in NEMSAC's authority is the ability to create policy or to pass regulations. You're only here to provide advice to the government. So that's a common misconception. A lot of people feel like NEMSAC creates policy. That's not the case. These are the departments represented in under FICOMs. Again, Department of War. Sorry, I didn't get the new logo. The Department of Transportation, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, and FCC. There are sub-agencies among those three in the middle that are called out in statute. Under the Department of Transportation, it's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, my home agency, NHTSA. The department, ASPR, CMS, CDC, HRSA, and Indian Health Service, IHS, are all listed under the Department of Health and Human Services. In Homeland Security, these days we refer to the Office of the Health Security, and the United States Fire Administration was named in statute. Some of the agencies that were named in statute have changed names over time and have evolved. So the agents, we tried to connect the dots and put the agencies and their new names on NEMSAC. Each one of these agencies has a representative. We also have a state office of EMS representative. It's Elizabeth Bassnett. She is located in California. She's the director of Cal EMS. And her job, she's appointed by the Secretary of Transportation, and it's her job to provide a perspective from state offices as it pertains to the local or the support that we provide to local, state, and tribal EMS agencies. So NEMSAC operates under the auspices or the provisions of FACA, the Federal Advisory Committee Act. And this act governs how the federal government receives advice from groups of private citizens. The thing it is intended to do is promote transparency, public access, balanced membership, accountability, and oversight. NEMSAC's charter is renewed biannually. It provides additional guidance specific to NEMSAC. Each Federal Advisory Committee at the federal government is required to have a charter, and the charter kind of gives a little bit more information. Like I said, it's renewed biannually by the Secretary of Transportation. The most recent charter was renewed on June 9th, 2025, and it's going to be good through June 9th of 27. This is where the sectors of EMS are identified. So each representative that is discussed who they are and where they come from, identify the sector they represent. Those are named in the charter. It also discusses the duties of NEMSAC, the Council of the Whole. We ask you to consider information and topics that are related to EMS issues and present to the Office of EMS and make recommendations. Excuse me. The EMS issues can be presented by the Office of EMS, but also members of FICOM and Secretary of Transportation himself. But generally, we're looking for you to find a topic and information that you're aware of, and the information that you've collected from the national community, and bring it back to us with recommendations for improving those programs or improving EMS delivery. To respond to requests for consultation every so often, most recently, the Secretary of Transportation through NHTSA requested recommendations for post-crash care improvement. That's the most recent recommendation or request for consultation. I'm sure you'll probably hear, now that we've got you reconstituted, you'll probably hear from the Secretary or one of the FICOM's members pretty soon. Also, like I said earlier, NEMSAC's got to prepare an annual report regarding its actions and recommendations. These are the sectors that are named in the charter presently. So let's talk about your role right now, things that you should do as an NEMSAC representative. We want you to engage with and listen to the thoughts and perspectives of individuals and organizations in your sector. We want you to bring a balanced sector perspective to the council when you've heard all their recommendations and thoughts. We want you to serve as a voice for the sector that you've been appointed to represent, and do so during council meetings. So this kind of forum, this is whenever you're supposed to have conversations about what's going on in your sector and make recommendations to the full council about where directions that you might want to go. We also want you to do that at subcommittee meetings. Under FACA, the council meetings or committee meetings are required to be public. That's the transparency that I mentioned a little while ago. Subcommittee meetings are times that are not required to be public, but it's times for the council members to write their advisories, their letters, their position statements together. So they meet, we try to coordinate meetings with each subcommittee once a month, so you have an opportunity to do that work collaboratively. We want you to serve as a voice for your sector. I mentioned that earlier, but I want you to consider that when you're crafting your advisories. And we need you to declare any conflicts of interest that you have during the live council meetings, just so the folks at home that are watching these public meetings are aware of any conflicts, and that's in consideration when you're writing your advisories. Things that we don't want you to do. We don't want you to represent yourself when you're NEMSAC. You're not supposed to represent your employer. You're not to represent an organizational affiliation. We don't want you to act or speak on behalf of the council when you're outside of council meetings. Never do that as an individual. We don't want you to think you can issue policy statements or make commitments on behalf of the federal government. Don't do that. Don't exert inappropriate influence. Essentially, don't be a bully about your opinions and your thoughts. Especially, I mean, people, when you come in and represent your sector, we want you to do so, but don't do so that your advisory only focuses on fixing a problem in that sector. We've got to be willing to compromise so that there's an independent judgment, or the independent judgment of the council is maintained. We want you not to use your appointment to advance your private business or your political interests. We want you to avoid using your appointment to imply endorsements of a service or a product. Shouldn't accept gifts or tokens that are offered you because of your appointment. You shouldn't accept compensation or an honorarium for teaching, speaking, or writing about your official NEMSAC duties. Try to avoid putting NEMSAC, or definitely avoid putting NEMSAC as part of your work signature or your personal email signature or on your letterheads. You can't be a registered federal lobbyist or participate in grassroots lobbying. and you can't engage in partisan political activity, solicit political contributions, or run for a partisan office while during the NEMSAC meetings. Don't use the meeting as a platform. So let's talk a little bit about council's leadership. Each year, a council person is selected annually. A chairperson is selected annually from the council, and that person will work closely with the DFO, which is GAM, or me, the proxy, to help coordinate subcommittees, their meetings, activities, communication, also helps set agendas, also helps establish long-term plans, strategic planning for the council, and to lead that discussion when we're having council meetings. Lead the council in his activities during meetings, and to serve as the moderator throughout the meeting. We also appoint or select a vice chair annually, and that person just assumes the above duties whenever the chairperson is unable to do so, either permanently or temporarily because they're unable to join us for the meetings. So let's talk a little bit more about the designated federal officer and what they do. As I noted a few moments ago, the NHTSA Office of EMS Program Manager for NEMSAC will serve as a proxy when the DFO is unable to serve or unable to provide the services needed. And these are all listed, these responsibilities are listed in NEMSAC's charter. But the responsibilities of the DFO are to call meetings. This may be whenever we need some advice. We'll schedule in advance these meetings. We'll put a notice in the Federal Register. It's got to be done 7 days, at least 7 days before the meeting. We try to make it a little bit more notice. The DFO approves agendas for the meetings. Those are set in conjunction with the chairperson. The DFO attends all NEMSAC meetings and subcommittee meetings for the entire duration, or the proxy is there for him. Adjourn meetings whenever it's determined to be in the public's interest. Chair a meeting, for example. We don't have a chair right now for NEMSAC, so GAM is serving as your chair until we get one appointed. The DFO also maintains information on NEMSAC activities and makes them available to the public. We do that through ems.gov. There is a NEMSAC resources landing page for folks to go to that page and review advisories that are in progress, or that have been completed rather. We also have a public comment portal for folks to review those in draft and to provide public comment to those that are in draft or in interim. The DFO also ensures that everyone is compliant with FACA's final rule, agency administrative procedures, and any other laws, regulations, and requirements that are specific to advisory committees. We also try to make sure the council members receive the appropriate training and education for operations that are efficient and compliant with statute. So subcommittees. The important thing to remember about subcommittees is, like I said a few moments ago, this is where the work products are created. And by work products, I do mean the advisories, letters, and I'll go into the difference between advisories and letters in a few minutes, and position statements. Position statements are usually reserved for whenever the council has an opinion, but there's no entity at the federal government that has the authority to make things happen. So it's just something that the council can use to publish a position to let the national community know there's a gap that needs to be filled. The subcommittees at meetings, NEMSAC meetings, they report on the draft advisories or interim advisories to the full council. And however, they may not give any advice or recommendations or any of the work products directly to DOT or secretary, that is, or to FICAMS. It's got to go from subcommittee to NEMSAC and from NEMSAC to those named in statute that receive the recommendations. And all subcommittees are approved by the Secretary of Transportation. Meetings, those are held as frequently as determined or necessary. If there's a lot of business needs to be covered, we could do it more frequently, but generally it's limited to 3 or 4 per year. Again, like I said earlier, the notice for the meeting has to be published at least 7 days prior to the date of the meeting. Again, we try to do that earlier so the national community has an opportunity to register for the meeting. If you are attending this meeting, you went through the registration process, there's no problem with you when you have access to that link, sharing that link or registering for the meetings with anyone you feel you need to share it with. NEMSAC welcomes public comment and encourages folks to watch. All the meetings are going to be virtual, and they're, like I said, open to the public. Chairperson presides over the meetings. They serve as the moderator. We observe Robert's Rules of Order. A quorum, if there aren't more than 50% of NEMSAC representatives present, then we won't be able to do business. But if you've got 50% or more, we can have a meeting. In the event that we don't have 50%, I'll probably just come online and tell the folks at home that we weren't able to get a quorum, and please join us next time. Each meeting has at least one designated time for public comment, and closed NEMSAC meetings, there's no such thing as a full council meeting that's closed to the public. It's always going to be open. So examples of advice or recommendations that have been given in the past are not necessarily the exact recommendation, but things that you can think about whenever you're coming up with your recommendations. Anything that can expand the use of the National EMS Information System, or NEMSIS. We want to use that for applied research and to develop standards, guidelines, performance benchmarks, and evidence-based guidelines. Programs that you think will improve the delivery of EMS and patient outcomes. Quality improvement projects, programs that'll strengthen the resiliency of EMS systems. And anything that could enhance or promote or strengthen EMS education or medical education in general, the professional development of EMS clinicians, their safety, recruitment and retention, the use of technology, etc. Things to be considering whenever you're making your advisory and you're making your recommendations in the advisory. You have to consider who your audience is. And by the way, this is part of the proposal process. Whenever you're considering an advisory or committing energy to go in and do the research of an advisory, these are the things that we want you to consider before you start forward with it. Who's your audience? Well, you only have 2 audiences that you can send your recommendations to. If it's not to any of the representative agencies, the FICOMs, or the Secretary of Transportation, you can just consider it falling on deaf ears because it's not going to be doing anything. And you also have to consider, is the agency that you're asking to do something about an issue, do they have the authority to do so? Now, sometimes that takes a little bit of research. You have to go in and try to figure out statutory law to find out whether that entity has the ability to make the changes that you're suggesting. Can't do this for the folks watching at home, but for NEMSAC representatives during subcommittee meetings or council meetings for that matter, I can help you with the statutory authorities and the recommendations that you're making. And the other thing to consider is this federal guidance already exists for the topic that you're trying to create the advisory for. I mean, if it already exists, then it's probably the recommendations you're making are not necessarily going to go anywhere unless you identify a gap in the guidance that exists. And then if you're determined if your advice or your recommendations are meant to close that gap. If it's not intended to close the gap, once again, it's energy that's not going anywhere. This has been instated as part of the proposal process, and the proposal process is when a subcommittee chair or a member of a subcommittee through the chair presents a topic to the council, identifies answers to all these questions that are on the screen, and if the council feels that it's worth dedicating energy and commitment to research, then they vote. The council votes on it, and if a majority of people think it's worth the time and effort, then the blessing of the council is given to the subcommittee to move forward with working on that advisory. If in the event the blessing isn't granted, it's no big deal. Maybe it's because one of the questions on the screen wasn't effectively answered. In most cases, you're not going to run into that issue. So report types. There is an advisory that's out there. This is a formal work product of the council. It's a document that talks about policy or issue of national significance. You go through and you write a synopsis of the thing that's going on, give us a little background on it, and then and these are always developed in subcommittee. And again, recommendations are for FICOMs. You can make them directly to NHTSA for our Office of EMS or the Secretary of Transportation. Each advisory goes through a proposal process, which I just outlined. Then during the proposal process, it kind of rests. There's an opportunity for public to make public comment and encouragement or discouragement of that advisory. Once the subcommittee has drafted that advisory, it will bring it to the council, and the council will decide whether to adopt it as draft. The advisory is adopted as draft with a majority vote. If it's not accepted as draft, well, there's something that's not quite right about it, or it didn't address some of the public comment or that folks are aware of. Now, through transparency, when the public comment comes in, I'm going to deliver that to the council. I'm also going to send out the draft to the entire council to review before the meeting so that there's familiarity with the document. Once the council has drafted it or accepted it as draft, it will lay what I call fallow, or nothing happening with that document between the draft and the interim period. During that period, we are accepting public comment. Now, if we're meeting 4 times a year quarterly, most folks will have 90 days to provide their public comment. If you receive none, the impression is NEMSAC's going the right direction, and we're encouraging you to continue with that with our silence. If the direction is not agreed upon, then the public will speak up. Oftentimes you may get comment from federal agencies because, again, it's open to the public, and federal agencies or representatives from federal agencies can look at these documents and say, hey, you might want to consider this when you're writing your final document. The advisory goes into draft goes into interim whenever the draft has all its substantive information included in it. So during the interim phase, you're correcting your punctuation, you're correcting your sentence structure, spelling, any kind of typos, adding references, nothing that's substantive to the meat of the advisory. And that's another time for the public to provide comment or feedback to your advisory. At the very next meeting, you can finalize that advisory, but if and only if there's no public comment that comes in that encourages you to reconsider what you've written. If you have to reconsider what you've written, you got to back it back down to draft and make substantive changes. If the public decides, well, you need a period after this sentence, then no, you don't need to back that down to draft to fix that. But it's to encourage you to consider what you've done. Does it include all the substantive information that it needs to have in it? And it's ready to go before you try to finalize it. Once it's finalized, we're going to post it on ems.gov. And that way it's out there for posterity, for the public to read. And it's also there for you to crosswalk future advisories. Hey, you can always refer back to that advisory and say, hey, you remember when we talked about this? Well, this is that plus a little bit more. Another report type that's out there are letters. Letters are generally an expedited form of getting recommendations to the government. Usually it's in emergency situations. We had several letters come out through COVID-19. They go through a draft period. They observe that public comment between draft and the next meeting. And at the next meeting, those can be finalized so we can get those recommendations up for responding to emergencies. Oftentimes, this is a mechanism also to expedite advice whenever the government asks for consultation. Like if the secretary says, hey, there's this issue we've identified, we want you to take a stab at resolving it, then you can write a letter in response to the secretary's inquiry and give that information. You just have to sit through 90-day period for public comment, and it can be finalized the very next meeting. So to close out this presentation, just want to let you know NEMSAC absolutely matters. This advisory council has spurred or catalyzed quite a bit of conversation nationally. It drives innovation in our community, and it also provides an invaluable public service. So you're definitely public services. You're gonna have people coming to you at meetings or gatherings and wanting you to take that information that they're providing back to the council for recommendations. So be prepared for that. Just don't represent the full council, only represent yourself. And that concludes the presentation. Just so you know, GAM is your BFO. I think you made that clear earlier. I'm here for you when you need me, and anyone watching via the live stream, this is our contact information. If you're interested in providing us with public comment, we're here to receive it and offer it to NEMSAC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clary. And we are wildly ahead of schedule. That's not a bad thing.
I tried to slow it down. I was hoping that everybody, when I was creating the schedule for this meeting, I was hoping everybody was just going to take their time and introduce themselves, tell the folks at home about themselves, but we were quick, so we are ahead of schedule.
That's okay. I need that background from your last vacation on my screen, and that would have slowed me down for sure. So we were scheduled for a break from 2:15 to 2:30 Eastern. I'll defer to your guidance, Clary. Maybe we should take a 15-minute break now and then reconvene. I'll reconvene in 15 minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, we've been going for an hour and a half now. Let's go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to serve a bio break, and we'll meet back in 15 minutes from now. So we'll see everybody at 1:45. Just make it an even quarter hour.
right, welcome back from the break. Hope everyone had time to get in a good stretch. Next on the agenda, we're going to talk about chairpersons and subcommittees. So let's start by talking about subcommittees. So and bear with me here. So under DOT Order 1120.E Echo, the establishment and operation of subcommittees are strictly regulated to ensure they remain subordinate to the parent advisory committee and do not bypass federal transparency requirements. Subcommittees are formed to perform specific narrow tasks, such as fact-finding or drafting preliminary recommendations, and must report their findings directly to the full National EMS Advisory Council rather than to NHTSA or the Secretary. Crucially, subcommittees do not have independent authority. Their work is considered final or official until it has been, their work is not considered final or official until until it has been deliberated and voted upon by the parent council, by NEMSAC, in an open public session. The DOT order also requires that while subcommittee meetings themselves are not always required to be open to the public, depending on their specific fact-finding nature, the council chair and the DFO must ensure that all subcommittee activities are documented and that any resulting advice undergoes a transparent review process to prevent de facto decision-making behind closed doors. So NEMSAC does not have subcommittees at this time. Subcommittees are going through a restructuring process right now. You should be aware that NHTSA's Office of EMS will soon assist FICMS with the process of renewing its strategic plan. And during that process, we'll also be proposing some new subcommittees with names, tasks, and focuses to the Secretary of Transportation through our administrator to align with the FICM strategic plan. That's all in process. So when the subcommittee names and purposes are formulated, the DFO or the appointed chair of NEMSAC will open the floor for nominations for the candidacy of appointment to serve as subcommittee chair. When that nomination process is completed, we'll follow DOT Order 1120E and offer these names to the Secretary for appointment to serve as subcommittee leaders. So I'll pause before moving on next to talk about the chair and vice chair of NEMSAC. I know that was a lot. Please, if you have any questions, please just chime in. All right. So background on council chair and vice chair. The Secretary of Transportation imposes specific mandates on Federal Advisory Committee Act chairs, FACA committee chairs, to ensure rigorous oversight and public transparency. As the presiding officer, a chair is responsible for directing the committee's work in strict alignment with its formal charter and the specific tasking provided by the Secretary or the DFO. The order requires chairs to work closely with the DFO to ensure all council deliberations are conducted in open public sessions and that all committee records, including detailed minutes and recommendation reports, are certified for accuracy and made available for public inspection. Furthermore, the chair is tasked with maintaining a fairly balanced representation of viewpoints during discussions, ensuring that no single interest group exerts undue influence over the committee's independent advice to the department or FICMS. Under the guidelines of DOT Order 1120E and the Federal Advisory Committee Act, FACA, the process for nominating and selecting the chairperson and vice chairperson must be transparent, public, and rigorously documented. As the acting chair, I'll conduct the nomination process using the following framework. So first, formal call for nominations. I'll initiate the process by issuing a formal call for nominations from among the appointed members present. To maintain a clear administrative record, I'll require nominations to be submitted in writing via the NEMSAC email portal or voiced on the record during an open public session. Per standard FACA practice, members are permitted to self-nominate for either position. Candidate intent to serve statements. To ensure an informed decision is made, I request that each nominee provide a brief oral or written statement. Under the administration's focus on efficiency and results, these statements should ideally address 1, the candidate's ability to manage diverse viewpoints across the SAFE system. 2, commitment to 2026 priorities such as post-crash care and pre-hospital blood transfusion. And 3, willingness to dedicate the additional time required for the duties of the position and coordination with FICMs. It is a heavy lift. I'll pause and just see if there are any questions. So if none, public deliberation and voting. The most critical requirement of DOT Order 1120EN FACA is that the election must be a public act. While the Secretary of Transportation officially appoints the leadership, the DFO facilitates nominations for the candidacy of appointment. So these nominations allows those interested in leading to step forward and assert their motivation for doing so. And finally, coordination with the Office of the Secretary. Following the Council's vote, the DFO will facilitate communication with departmental leadership. We'll submit a recommendation for chairperson and vice chairperson to our bosses, to the administrator and the secretary, and we'll base those recommendations based on statements offered today and in writing. As always, the Secretary of Transportation holds the final authority around leadership appointments. And we will notify council members once the secretary has made his appointments. So, any questions before we proceed with the nomination process? Oh, and thank you, Clary, for the correction. It was DOT Order 1120.3E. All right. On that note, I'll now entertain a motion to open the floor for nominations for the candidacy of chairperson.
Motion to open the floor for nominations for chairperson.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Okay, and let me make sure. So will those interested in making a nomination, please raise your virtual hand, and I'll call on each of you in no particular order. And actually, Clary, I'll rely on you to actually call out the folks, if you don't mind.
I guess the chair recognizes Mike Thomas. His hand is up.
Go ahead, Mike.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. First, NEMSACers, congratulations to all of you, and I look forward to working with you in any capacity deemed fit by this administration. However, for today's purposes, I am honored to announce my nomination for chairperson of this council. I believe this role requires someone who can listen deeply, synthesize complex and sometimes competing perspectives, and guide discussion toward practical recommendations that strengthen EMS systems nationwide. First, I believe my previous appointment with the council has provided me not only with the institutional experience regarding letters, advisories, full council, and subcommittee procedures, but it has also helped me capture the zeitgeist of the FACA process and the decorum it expects. As chairperson, I would be committed to supporting NEMSAC's advisory role to NHTSA and FICAMS with a leadership style grounded in deliberative discussion, inclusion, evidence, transparency, and action. In alignment with the current administration priorities, I would focus on efficiency, accountability, and results, ensuring that this council's work is directly linked to measurable improvements in EMS system performance and patient outcomes. I'm especially committed to the 2026 priorities of strengthening post-crash care, emergency response coordination, and pre-hospital blood transfusion capabilities, priorities that are central in improving survivability, reducing preventable death, and modernizing EMS as an essential component of the nation's public safety and healthcare infrastructure. Finally, I also understand the additional expectations of the chairperson role and am fully prepared to dedicate the time required for executive committee duties, council coordination, and ongoing collaboration with FICAMS and the NHTSA Office of OEMS. My goal is to help NEMSAC advance thoughtful, system-focused recommendations that serve EMS clinicians, agencies, communities, and patients across the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And I see Angela Cornelius has her hand raised. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Angela Cornelius out of Fort Worth, like I said earlier. And so I wanted to address you guys why I'm applying for the chair of NEMSAC. So as an emergency physician and EMS medical director, I've dedicated my career to advancing high quality, evidence-informed, and operationally resilient pre-hospital care systems. My experience spans EMS medical oversight, disaster and mass gathering preparedness, public health collaboration, and healthcare system coordination across urban, suburban, rural environments. So these experiences have reinforced the importance of thoughtful national leadership, interdisciplinary collaboration, and the ability to navigate complex and often competing priorities within EMS. I recognize the role of NEMSAC chair requires not only strategic vision, but also the ability to manage diverse and multivariate viewpoints within the broader safe system approach, which interestingly enough, the safe system approach is very much an all hazards approach, which I actually do a lot of disaster management and hold a master's in disaster management. So it very much spoke to me. Meaningful progress in injury prevention and post-crash care requires collaboration across all systems, right? EMS, emergency medicine, transportation safety, public health, law enforcement, fire service, hospitals, federal agencies, community stakeholders, and I'm sure I'm missing some. I value inclusive dialogue and believe effective leadership requires balancing operational realities with innovation, safety priorities, and evidence-based policy development. I'm committed to supporting the Council's 2026 priorities, including strengthening post-crash care systems and advancing initiatives related to pre-hospital blood transfusion and other emerging clinical capabilities that improve survivability and patient outcomes. And that's actually my sub-specialization within EMS is I do a lot of EMS innovations. I actually sit on the Texas Pre-Hospital Whole Blood Coalition, who is actually trying to really bring pre-hospital whole blood transfusion to all Texas counties, including some that don't even have EMS. So I'm working on the ground actually trying to make that happen for Texas. So as EMS systems continue to face workforce challenges, increasing clinical complexity, disaster readiness demands, and evolving healthcare needs, NEMSAC remains critically positioned to help guide national priorities and recommendations. So I do recognize the significant responsibilities associated with the chair position and am willing to dedicate the additional time necessary to fill executive commitment duties and maintain effective coordination with FICAMS and NHTSA. I understand the importance of consistent engagement, preparation, communication, and collaboration necessary to support the Council's mission and maintain productive relationships across federal and national EMS partners. It would be an honor to serve in this role and contribute to advancing a safer, stronger, and more resilient EMS system nationwide. Thank you for your consideration and for your continued commitment to EMS and public safety, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Okay, are there further nominations? If you wish to make a nomination, please raise your virtual hand. I see none. Going once, twice. Okay, I do not see any further hands. I'll now entertain a motion to close nominations for the candidacy of chairperson.
Motion.
Move we close.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please unmute and say nay. If you're abstaining, please unmute and say so now. All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Now we will proceed to open the floor for nominations for vice chair. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to open the floor for nominations for the candidacy of vice chairperson.
Moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
There is a second. All right. So same procedure. If you're interested in making a nomination for the position of vice chair, please raise your virtual hand. I will then call on you in no particular order. All right. Kevin Turley.
Hi, my name is Kevin Turley. I'm tendering my nomination as vice chair for NEMSAC. During my 3 decades of service, I've had multiple opportunities where I've demonstrated the ability to manage varying and at times very strong viewpoints. Having a cool, level-headed approach to listen to the different sides, lead by example by working towards a common goal is paramount. And we're all stakeholders in our profession with the common goal of serving our nation. I've had the honor of serving on multiple boards as well as our local city council, so I'm very familiar with Robert's Rules of Order. And we need to listen and work through our differences for the common good and do so in a professional manner. I have a strong commitment to post-crash care, and I've also witnessed the dire need for access for pre-hospital blood transfusions, especially in the rural communities. Remain steadfast in my advocacy of this to improve patient outcomes and the safety of fellow providers. If entrusted with this role, I will be honored to dedicate the additional time needed for the executive committee duties and to dedicate the time needed to coordinate with FICMS and NHTSA's Office of EMS. Either way, I appreciate y'all's consideration.
Thank you, Kevin. Chair recognizes Nicholas Cozy.
Thank you, Gam, and thank you, NEMSAC colleagues. I'm honored to express my interest in serving as the vice chair of NEMSAC. And over the next 2 years, I will represent the EMS physician sector on NEMSAC, and I look forward to building relationships with each and every one of the EMS leaders on this council. I approach this role and the opportunity to be vice chair with deep respect for the responsibility we collectively have in representing the diverse viewpoints, voices, and operational realities that shape EMS across the nation. My professional experiences have provided me the opportunity to work alongside and with 2 of the most largest complex systems in the country, in the city of New York and in the city of Chicago. These experiences have reinforced the importance of collaboration, humility, operational awareness, and relationship building in advancing meaningful EMS progress. They've also taught me the most sustainable solutions are built with consensus, thoughtful dialogue, and the ability to navigate and respect multivariate viewpoints. Throughout my career, I've consistently worked to bring clinicians together, along with administrators, public safety leaders, hospital system, governmental agencies, educators, and frontline clinicians around shared goals in improving patient outcomes, operational readiness, and workforce development. Whether coordinating medical operations for national special security events such as the Democratic National Convention held at the United Center in Chicago, leading disaster preparedness initiatives in the city of Chicago, advancing technical rescue and advanced scope medicine, while building partnerships across regional EMS systems. I prioritize communication, transparency, and collaborative leadership. Our 2026 EMS theme of improving outcomes together strongly represents and reflects my philosophy towards leadership and the future we all have in EMS. I strongly believe the next chapter of national EMS advancement will depend on our ability to work collectively across disciplines, sectors, and jurisdictions while balancing innovation with operational practicality. Through it all, we must always remember and prioritize the patient at every decision we make. I am particularly committed to supporting NEMSAC's ongoing priorities related to post-crash care, trauma system development, EMS preparedness, and pre-hospital blood transfusion initiatives, and the promise that it shares for each and every one of our communities that we serve. Throughout my current work with large urban EMS systems, I've seen firsthand the life-saving potential of integrated trauma response, early hemorrhage control, and the enhanced pre-hospital care capabilities such as pre-hospital blood. I strongly believe NEMSAC has the vital opportunity and duty to continue advancing national conversations regarding survivability, interoperability, rural and urban system integration, and evidence-informed innovation in EMS delivery. Additionally, I fully recognize serving as vice chair requires significant time, preparation, coordination, and engagement. I am fully prepared to dedicate the additional necessary effort to support the executive committee and the chairperson, collaborate closely with FICMS and the NHTSA Office of EMS, and assist in fostering productive dialogue across the council and the stakeholders that we serve. The responsibilities outlined within the NEMSAC Charter are responsibilities I would approach with professionalism, responsiveness, and commitment. It will be a privilege to serve the council in this role and continue working alongside my colleagues, each and every one of you, to strengthen EMS systems, support the workforce, and ultimately improve outcomes together. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Richard Rhodes.
Good afternoon. Thank you, GAM and NEMSAC colleagues. I'd like to nominate Crystal Shellnut for the position of vice chair. I have worked closely with Crystal for many, many years. She's a very, very well-respected paramedic and educator. Her role at the present with the Georgia Trauma Commission, she does a lot of quality improvement work that has done many, many things for our initial education pipeline in Georgia, as well as our continuing education. She works closely on initiatives with pre-hospital blood administration that aligns with this advisory committee's goals here. There are many, many things that she's involved in. In terms of my work with her in the past, I've always been impressed by her inclusivity of other individuals, hearing varying viewpoints, and always willing to take in diverse opinions and viewpoints and share those with a broader group for a common goal. She's always been an excellent educator, and she's been someone that I've trusted for many, many years. I don't have a long spiel to say, but I have a lot of experience working with Crystal, and she'd be a fine person to vice chair this group. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Shea During.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Cam. Thanks to everybody. It's nice to see everybody finally for our first NEMSAC meeting. And I'd like to nominate for the role of vice chair. I am a board certified pediatric emergency medicine and EMS physician here in Birmingham. I'm also started my career in EMS and still am a nationally registered paramedic. My career's not been just about clinical practice, but about sustained commitment to shaping emergency care and especially pre-hospital care for patients in Alabama and in my region. I've admired the work this council's done, have deep respect for the responsibility that comes with supporting its leadership. NEMSAC plays a singular role in elevating the voice of EMS at the national level, and the position of vice chair carries responsibility to strengthen that mission from within. Currently serve as a EMS medical director for multiple fire departments in 2 counties here in the Birmingham metro area, the assistant state EMS medical director for pediatrics at the Office of EMS, and work as the medical director for our EMS for Children program as well. And recently founded a countywide multi-agency coordinated blood transfusion, pre-hospital blood transfusion program here in Shelby County, Alabama. That required building consensus across multiple agencies and developing field protocols for that. and establishing medical oversight infrastructure to deliver that life-saving intervention at scale, which plays nicely into the current goals for this committee. And precisely the kind of collaborative system-level leadership that was required for the NEMSAC vice chair role as well. Effective leadership of the council requires the ability to synthesize diverse and sometimes competing perspective, and that's work I do every day. I mean, I do pediatric emergency medicine, so I deal with parents every day, but also working on the state level as the assistant state medical director, serving our state's EMS medical control committee. I've done that. Support the safe system approach, which demands that we look upon beyond any single point and examine roads, vehicles, human factors, all the things that determine patient outcomes. Things I've done in the past and worked with our state office and operated across all those domains as a paramedic with direct field care, as a medical director, field response as a medical director, and multi-agency operations, developing EMS protocols for the state and a contributing author to the NEMSAC National EMS Clinical Guidelines. And as somebody who has research, grant-funded research in gaps on pediatric pre-hospital care and in disaster preparedness. I'm very active in that area as well and working in an all hazards approach and currently working on my master's in emergency management in addition to working with all my other work in disaster management. I also want to speak directly to the demands of this position. Serving as vice chair means consistent support to the chair, meaningful executive committee responsibilities, and maintaining active coordination with FICMs and the NHTSA Office of EMS. And I serving as the Emergency Medical Control Committee and on numerous other state and national work groups. I understand what genuine interagency collaboration means and the amount of time and consistent engagement and disciplined preparation that are required for that kind of role. The vice chair must be steady, reliable partner and be able to dedicate that time. And I have that ability and think I could fulfill this role quite effectively. And I look forward to working with everybody on the NEMSAC committee in the future.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? If you have a nomination, please raise your virtual hand now. Any further? Any further? I do not see any further nominations. I'll now entertain a motion to close nominations for the candidacy of vice chairperson.
Motion.
There's a motion and I hear a second.
Second.
All right. Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to close nominations for vice chairperson and it has been seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please unmute and say aye.
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 All those opposed to the motion, please unmute and say nay. If you're abstaining, please unmute and indicate now. I hear no abstentions. The motion passes. All righty. Thank you for your assistance with the process, council members. We will work on finalizing appointments with the secretary before the next convening of NEMSAC. And if we get those squared away, we'll announce both appointments at the next NEMSAC meeting. Thank you for your participation in that process. So we're proceeding down the agenda. I just do want to say I do have to step out for a few minutes at 2:30 Eastern. I will not only leave you in capable hands, I will leave you in more capable hands with Clary serving as the acting DFO. So fear not, but I do beg your patience. There's a meeting I have to step out for in about 15 minutes. Here's some additional good news. We're coming to the point of the meeting where I'll begin talking a little bit less, and you all get to do some more talking. I know my staff would say that I'll miss the sound of my own voice, but there's all sacrifices that we've got to make. So it's for the greater good. So I'm about to open the floor for you, the council members, to discuss your ideas about anything the administrator or myself or any of the FICOM's reps spoke to you about today. You may discuss any of the items that were raised or others you may have, and then discuss the merits of creating an advisory on any of these topics when the subcommittees are formed. Please raise your hand to be acknowledged if you're interested in opening discussion. I'll recognize each person that raises their hand. Please confirm discussion about a particular topic is complete before moving to the next topic. So if I need a step in for the purposes of a point of order, I'll do so, and Clary will assist me in doing so as well. If any of the topics you discussed today are determined to be of particular interest, we'll have a request for proposals made at the next meeting of NEMSAC. So proposals offered at the next meeting must be approved by the entire council for any one person to commit time towards formulating an advisory draft. So we, of course, will also stay cognizant of our time for public comment, and will pause appropriately during discussion to field public comment when that comes up. When we get to the formal public comment period, if no comment is received by 3 minutes in the public comment period, then we'll close the public comment and we can resume our conversation. But I do know we do have some planned public comments already. That's good. For those that are watching the live stream, please submit your feedback now so that we have it by the time we open the formal period of public comment, which is right now is scheduled to open at 3:55 p.m. Eastern. All right. So again, I'll be stepping out in about 13 minutes, and Clary will take over as the acting chair. But let's go ahead and open the floor now for discussions, and please raise your electronic hand and I will recognize you. Mike Thomas.
Hey, Gimp. So are we open here to suggesting possible subcommittee names, or is that something that we're not involved in here?
I'll defer that question to Clary.
Yes, we can accept
Okay.
suggestions.
I just have I have two that I think are very important and pressing moving forward, and would love to discuss either the title or the concept, either one. But we had mentioned, this administration's purview to rural EMS, and I was thinking about rural and frontier EMS sustainability, or advancing rural and austere operations as subcommittee titles. And then I had one more with the, we could go on and on about the AI rapidly approaching, but I think, to me, I would suggest that there be a subcommittee that deals with data interoperability and AI in EMS. Something like title, I just messed around with a little bit, EMS data modernization and interoperability.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion on that issue. Chair recognizes Juan Mejias. Mejias, sorry.
It's okay. It's Mejias.
Mejias, okay. I'll get it. I'll get it.
I would second that, to forming a subcommittee potentially looking at data interoperability. There's a lot that goes into that, though, that's going to tackle many different avenues, whether it's regarding AI policy and data governance that's been talked about over the last year. It's changing almost weekly, but the bigger one falls into the 2026 goals to this committee and NHTSA and FICO, which are specifically outcomes. outcomes are going to be a big data push and a back and forth longitudinal. And so trying to look at that, I think that's going to be a really big win as far as looking at what 2026 can accomplish.
Steve McCoy.
Yeah, so I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon here and second what Mike and Juan was talking about on the data piece. Being a former data manager, I can't not let that go by without showing some support for that. And the outcomes piece, obviously, when you put data innovation, there was, I don't know, about 3 or 4 other things that Mike threw in there. I think that's going to be a massive subcommittee. So, but it's so needed. On the rural side, being one of the state directors, I actually had the Office of Rural Health under my purview. So that's another big piece. I mean, I think we could get on here and make probably 50 subcommittees. But it's going to be up to you guys how we condense them down and how we make something that we can work together to not make it too big, but also get some work done in as well.
Angela Cornelius.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'm kind of two minds, right? So there's big, broader topics, big buckets versus smaller buckets. And so I'm thinking from the broader buckets, something along the lines of EMS innovations or up and coming new ideas. And then I think we can't ignore like pre-hospital blood maybe ought to be its own subcommittee because there's a lot of stuff coming with that, and maybe not pre-hospital blood, pre-hospital, I don't know, because there's plasma coming, there's lots of stuff. So I think that might for a while be reasonable, either under EMS innovations versus its own subcommittee itself.
Thank you, Angela. Just looking for any hands. Pause for a minute, let you all ruminate, and if you have additional comments, just go ahead and raise your electronic hand. Okay. Is there, hearing no additional comments on this topic, is there that I think was focused on possible subcommittee structures? Is there a new topic that anyone would like to raise? And please just raise your electronic hand and I'll recognize you to speak. Oh, sorry. Dr. Cozy, go ahead.
Thank you, Gam. One of the areas I believe will be vital in potentially putting together a subcommittee recommendation is EMS reimbursement and financial sustainability subcommittee. EMS is expected to deliver advanced clinical care, post-crash survival, complex refusals, treatment in place, alternative destinations, but transport is still largely whether an ambulance transports someone. And that mismatch threatens access, patient care, sustainability, and readiness. And a potential NEMSAC subcommittee would create a focused national menu to define the problem, align federal partners, and perhaps recommend additional and innovative payment models that recognizes EMS for not just transportation, but aligning the diverse clinical care and viewpoint that EMS in 2026 possesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Mike Thomas.
I just wanted to piggyback off what Dr. Cozy said. I couldn't agree more, and I'm glad the it didn't have to come from the private entity, the reimbursement, because I know that's where it usually comes from. But I had a couple of notes on that as well. Just, beyond transport-based payment, so innovative payment and care models being a suggestion for possibly a name. But I love the suggestion, Dr. Cozy.
Yeah, Jerry, go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hand over here. But I'm glad they brought that up. That was great. And the other day, Clary sent out the letter from the what's the American College of Paramedicine, and there were certainly quite a few suggestions and comments in that, and I read through that and provided some feedback. So I wanted to just give a little bit of summary on that, because I think it goes to what the other two gentlemen had talked about. There's quite a few topics, regarding EMS evolution, community paramedicine, reimbursement, modernization, workforce sustainability, and rural healthcare integration. I think they're great topics, but I think, they do need to be split up a little bit, and there's probably several committees that could be created from those based on their operational maturity. The near-term federal guidance versus longer-term professionalization, educational and scope evolution discussions. They may require broader stakeholder engagement and additional study. If trying to address all of that one letter at one time, would probably just make for little progress with any of the topics. So based on that, I think one of the most mature and actionable areas to include would be the reimbursement, modernization, and payer recognition, but also the mobile integrated healthcare and community paramedicine. There was some advisory discussed or written previously with the NEMSAC, although I have not had a chance to a very deep dive, but I did see some things from 17 and 18. So I do look forward to talking more about that. But, I think federal recognition and reimbursement reform may ultimately be more transformative to EMS evolution than scope expansion alone. Sustainable scaling in MIH and community paramedicine will depend heavily on CMS, Medicaid, and payer recognition of EMS as a healthcare delivery partner rather than solely transportation service. That's been said before. Many of these models already exist across multiple states, health systems, payer environments, and have demonstrated value when integrated within coordinated healthcare systems with appropriate physician oversight, interoperability, quality infrastructure, and care coordination. The ACP document raises some other broader topics that, while those discussions are important to the future evolution of paramedicine, they would be more appropriate for separate subcommittees and longer-term evaluation processes, given their complexity. So I would suggest the potential next step would be the creation of a focused NEMSAC work group committee addressing EMS integrated healthcare delivery model and reimbursement transformation.
Thank you, Jerry. Clary, I'm going to hand the con over to you, and I'll see the council again a little bit later today. Thank you all. Clary, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So NEMSACers, I've been taking notes as you're making suggestions. Just as a point of order, we're taking suggestions for topics as well. A lot of the subcommittees that you're recommending, there are probably ways to get many of these topics that you recommended assigned to one or two subcommittees, but I don't want you to focus on the creation of subcommittees right yet. Let's also focus on the creation or kind of spitballing topics to make advisories on. I am taking notes, everything that everybody's mentioned, I'm putting it down so it's there. Bill, I saw your hand go up first, and then I'll go with Angela and then Juan.
Yeah, I agree with the preceding comments. I do think there is work that needs, or attention that needs to be looked at with EMS reimbursement and funding mechanisms that reflect beyond just the 911 aspect of of EMS. I think that certainly there needs to be exploration in the parallels of EMS with affordable care organizations and trying to mitigate unnecessary ED patient arrivals or utilization. And then just thinking also about the phrasing around integration, but really how EMS is part of the system of care and helps to connect systems of care, especially as we see the shifting dynamics in rural health care, the closure of critical access hospitals, the relationship with specialty care, centers of excellence, and tertiary care. More and more patient transfer is needed, and I don't think that our rural EMS services and areas are quite equipped to meet those challenges that seem to only be accelerating.
Okay, Angela, go ahead.
So two topics that, and I don't know where they would live as far as subcommittees, but you mentioned topics as well. So EMS wall times and hospital boarding and how it affects the rest of our entire healthcare system, i.e. pre-hospital. So I think that's the big issue. And then I really agreed with that letter that you sent us the other day about turning the EMS system upside down. And we really need to be looking at it from a treatment in place type area, which I completely agree in. I do a lot of work in this area. And then to further add to that is we need EMS to be recognized as an essential service, period, in all states federally. And we need to further talk about Dr. Cozy. We need to talk about where is the funding going to come from, right? We need better funding to be able to do the things that we're already doing and not getting funded for.
Thank you much. Just as a point of order, a lot of the NEMSACers are referencing a letter that I forwarded to them via email recently before the beginning of the meeting. This is in reference to a letter that came from the American College of Paramedics. I'm going to be reading that during the public comment period, not in its entirety because it was a 9-page letter, but I asked them to provide a quick summary. The letter in its entirety will be available on ems.gov at a later time, but I do want to get the crux of what they were trying to communicate out to the folks at home watching. But like we've kind of indicated, the NEMSACers have read the full letter, or in the process of reading the full letter, and we'll potentially be making recommendations for that one in the future once we have a time to digest it. Now I'll recognize Juan.
Thank you, Clary. To kind of bring up specifically one comment to the letter, then two specific pieces to discussion topics that fall into the letter as well. One is there are large organizations out there that have done a lot of groundwork and there's valid research, and some of those pieces that kind of interlink all of our discussion topics and subcommittee ideas today. And I think those are going to be broader topics to discuss about how it relates to outcomes for MIH patients, readmission patients, billing, reimbursement. All of that kind of rolls into outcomes as a larger discussion topic. And there's a lot of really good data and scientific research that's laying on the table, and that's coming out each year. So I think this is a really rich area for this entire group to kind of come around. To approach another specific topic, the idea of measuring how we're transferring patients. Right now, if you were to go and poll different IFT, interfacility transport organizations, a lot of them have different ways of measuring their success. And so I would like to raise the discussion topic of what does it look like to measure the IFT environment as a whole, and what does that look like for EMS and healthcare providers, and how does that relate back to our essential goals?
Apparently I'm talking and I'm muted. Made some notes on what you just said. Chair recognizes Derek.
Good afternoon. And part of this was touched on before, but more of it has tenets and a lot of the topics that were discussed. But how do we look at changing the deployment model and expectations of EMS and the citizens that call for it. I think that's probably bigger. It covers into the inundation of emergency rooms, that having the appropriate people go to the hospital, and what are the capabilities to not say you're going to treat in place, and how all those are interconnected, more broader base of, the foundation of EMS and what the purpose of it is.
Okay, thank you, sir. And here's where I lost who was hand was up first. So I'm just going to go from left to right. Steve?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we can't get through this thing without addressing mental health and wellness of our EMTs and paramedics. Obviously, that's a big topic. We're seeing suicides left and right. So we can't. I don't think we can move forward without addressing that topic as well. That kind of ties into our workforce issues, sustainability, everything else. So we got to put that in on the top of the stack for me.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. There's also an advisory that's existing, several advisories actually, now that we're referencing, that exist. So I encourage you to go look at ems.gov for those. I will try to cross-reference those from the notes that I'm taking and get those sent out to you so you have access to those, because you may want to crosswalk with them or reiterate some of the points that they've have made in previous advisories. Crystal.
Hey, I wanted to add on to Angela's thoughts and Juan about wall times are really significant, of course, but so are interfacility transports and our ability to move these patients throughout the system. I know specifically in our rural communities that's a problem and a barrier, which contributes to wall times. So maybe a committee idea is ways to decompress the system. So that would manage wall times, interfacility transports, and the role of mobile integrated health in our community paramedics to try and prevent some of those unnecessary ER visits.
Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
I'd like to reiterate they were saying about the reimbursements, and that is definitely needs to be addressed. That ties right back into treatment in place, which treatment in place I think will help decompress the system a good bit. There's a lot we can do in the field that does not warrant a transport to the hospital, and also with the reimbursements. I don't know how it is in other places, but I know, like for example, if you had a patient that was diabetic and all they needed was D10 or D50, for reimbursement purposes, a lot of services are going to have them go ahead and load up the patient before they start an IV. And, now you're incurring a hospital visit and it's costing everybody more money and tying up beds. But anyway, that, and another thing, I don't know how we'd rope into whatever subcommittee we have, but ambulance thefts. Thankfully, we haven't experienced that, but from a presentation that I went to a couple of weeks ago, from my understanding, there's like an ambulance stolen once every couple of weeks, which that ties into safety of our communities, because a lot of our places, we only have one or two ambulances for an entire county. So, but some way to maybe get something over to DOT or whatever to mandate future ambulances to have some sort of device to prevent the thefts. But that's it.
Okay. Nicholas, I believe you were next.
I want to bridge on something that was brought up regarding excessive wall times in the new CMS measure called ECAT, Emergency Care and Timeliness. And I see a lot of heads nodding because that is really the key that's going to help us unlock areas as it relates to excessive wall times. A new CMS measure that's coming, it was 2026 final rule for those who are unfamiliar, really has 4 triggers and was related to ED delays as a growing health crisis, the excessive wall time, excessive boarding, prolonged stay in the ER, and then left without evaluation. And that's going to be something that reporting begins in 2027 for 2030 payment reductions. And hospital facilities are looking at potentially a 2.0% payment reduction. And it's really that first emphasis that the pre-hospital care is part of the entire healthcare continuum, and that acute care episode starts at that dispatch call But what's really interesting about this is now it's being tied to performance in the hospital, something that we tremendously value. Decreasing wall time is now going to be financially realized on the hospital space. Hospitals are at risk of payment reduction, but also losing potentially CMS stars. And so that's going to be something that the previous NEMSAC perhaps did not have time to address because of its saliency this year, but it's something that I believe we're going to have to chew on and find ways to address and looking at how that's going to impact us.
Thank you, sir. Steve.
Yeah, so I think we need to throw this topic out there on EMT and paramedic safety. We see the physical, mental attacks on our EMTs and paramedics. So I think from a safety standpoint, we're seeing a lot of body camera type things coming up in different places. How does that interact with safety and quality improvement? I mean, this all ties into innovation. I think as we stack all these topics together, they're going to tie into each other. When you look at behavioral health, you'll see wall times and everything else. So it's going to be a lot to untangle, but I think we got to address the safety of our EMTs and paramedics.
Yeah, that's a relatively recent advisory as well, that we could probably elaborate on. Mike Thomas.
I was kind of messing with all these EMS issues nationwide and sort of naming kind of subcommittees and what Crystal was talking about earlier for that. I just had system throughput and patient handoff efficiency as a possible subcommittee name. Just wanted to add that.
System throughput, and what was the efficiency?
Patient handoff efficiency.
Patient. Are there others? Go ahead, Richard.
Thank you, Clary. I'd like to talk about a little bit pivoting from reimbursement models into workforce retention and recruitment. Obviously, that's an issue in many nations, or excuse me, in many states across the nation and in many services in different states. Particularly as I represent the education sector, part of my impetus for that is always about the education piece. How many people are we recruiting into our education programs? What are their performance inside those programs, and how can we support them at a federal level on down to a state and a local level? So whether I really raised the topic more so than the subcommittee itself, but if the subcommittee wanted something, it would be looking at workforce recruitment and retention with an eye on how we can improve performance. I've had conversation with many state EMS directors in my previous role with the Georgia Office of EMS. We had some initiatives where we were trying to improve the performance of individual programs, and the Georgia Trauma Commission that Crystal works with in terms of quality improvement has done a tremendous amount of work in improving grant-funded classes that they support to build a sustainable workforce in the rural area, particularly. And I know that there are many states across the nation that are suffering from either poor recruitment into programs or high attrition rates inside those programs. I spoke with one state EMS director this morning from the Midwest who was dealing with an issue such as that. So I think that this group could do a lot to look at how can we, from this body, from the federal level, support improving program performance, pulling students into our program, and then retaining them once we get them to the workforce. And I think some of that comes through, indeed, through the reimbursement models that were talked about earlier, making our services more sustainable themselves, but also making the requirements to maintain clinician licensure and certification more aligned with what the industry needs are today. It was mentioned earlier the public comment letter that we received, and I think that ties in exactly with this model. There are so many other models of EMS that are forming across the nation: community paramedic, critical care paramedics, treat in place. And all of those add another layer to the initial education of a paramedic. The body of knowledge and the scope of practice that a paramedic is supposed to know, especially when they start specializing in critical care or community paramedicine. So I think we take a look at how we can improve the initial education pipeline to provide a more robust education for a clinician to understand different aspects, but also that we sort of provide a little bit more structure in terms of what either the continuing education or the specialization, such as community paramedic, austere paramedicine, things like that. Art, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate, I mean, it's been mentioned several times about reimbursement, especially in the rural settings. But as a representative for the legislative branches, both state and local, one of the biggest obstacles we're facing is funding and how to keep these rural services and these underserved services running and operating with very little tax dollar and tax base to count on reimbursement. So the reimbursement is a big deal, but it's also something we need to look at because at some point in some of these areas, the legislative bodies of the state or the local governments are going to have to influx some money to help struggling EMS services survive. That's just a fact that we're all facing. And I just wanted to reiterate the reimbursement thing is a really big deal, especially in the legislative perspective.
Art, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this, and I think Dr. Causey already mentioned it, and I think Mike also mentioned it, but I know you're taking notes, Clary. I just want to make sure that alternative destination and the reimbursement concept is captured in your notes somewhere. That's all. I agree with everything else that everyone is sharing.
Anything else? As far as strategic planning goes and scheduling of meetings, I just want to put it out to the public at this point. We're tentatively scheduling a meeting to follow up this meeting in August and another in November of this year, and that will be all the meetings that we're going to be scheduling this calendar year. But we're going to resume the February, May, August, November cadence if that is approved. We do have a period of public comment coming up, but I believe we also have a comment from our immediate past chair who's here and interested in providing words of advice.
Thanks, Clary. Welcome, Council. And as Clary will say, is no big surprise, I'm actually driving in a vehicle right now, so I apologize for that. So I'm going to turn my camera off so you don't have to endure the stop and go traffic in beautiful downtown Boston. So my name is Brendan Hayden, and I am the past member of NEMSAC and the appointed chair of the last council, where I represented the hospital administration seat for 4 years. I would like to congratulate all of you on your appointments to NEMSAC. Speaking for myself, it was an incredible honor to be appointed to the council. I didn't completely realize the weight of these responsibilities of the role until I actually dug into my first advisory. That advisory was an EMS finance advisory that helped to better define payment structures, reimbursement, and the challenges that go along with it. It truly was baptism by fire. But luckily, I had the benefit of an experienced council members to help guide me. As all of you are new to the council, or at least all of you but one, you're going to have to take on and learn a little bit differently. Luckily, you have the benefits of a returning member, Mike Thomas, who I know will serve as a great guide on your journey, on your NEMSAC journey. You're also very lucky to have Clary Mole as a mentor. Clary, who has supported multiple councils, is in and of himself an EMS expert and will help you traverse the difficult and confusing government structures, which is essential to be successful as a NEMSAC member. For me, it was the most challenging piece. EMS providers in all parts of this country rely on the work that you will take on as members of this council. That work is focused on advancing EMS and better serving patients. Your diligence will help to bring change to an industry that frankly is suffering under so many different challenging conditions. Speaking for the immediate past council, it's essential that that work is taken on in an apolitical manner. In every meeting I was part of, at no time did politics play a role in anything that we did in helping to incubate, construct, or promulgate advisories and letters. While we currently live in a very politically charged world, that world must remain outside of NEMSAC's work. One of the challenges you will need to immediately overcome is the virtual and remote nature of these meetings. I can remember my first few NEMSAC meetings came right at the tail end of COVID. It was very difficult and frustrating to first get hold of what our actual responsibilities were and to build relationships that are essential in helping to develop these advisories and letters. I hope that moratorium on in-person meetings will end, thereby allowing you to meet and develop relationships that are so essential in the work of the council. If not, I have no doubt that you will develop other techniques to help traverse those challenges. As you start on this amazing journey, please know that you have the support of all past council members. I feel very confident in saying that former members of NEMSAC would be more than willing to help the council advance its work. That said, we all recognize that this is now your time to shine, and we are equally as happy to stand by and see your amazing work take flight. As a final gesture, the last council had NEMSAC lapel pins created that helped both highlight membership on the council and to help educate others in our industry. These are our gifts to you. We hope that you will ultimately do the same for your eventual replacements. Good luck to all of you. I look forward to seeing how you change the EMS world.
Thank you, Brendan. Appreciate it. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, I think let's go ahead and move forward with observing our period of public comment. I know it's a little early, but I don't believe there's any additional business for us to discuss. Let me get it pulled up just 1 second. I'm going to start with the letter or the abbreviated version of the letter that I received from the American College of Paramedics. The American College of Paramedics is an institutional body of paramedic professional college, analogous to the American College of Emergency Physicians, which through paramedicine establishes its standards and engages in federal policy. We have submitted a written comment to NEMSAC outlining 4 priority areas. First, the default practice model must change. Community paramedicine, treatment in place, and treat and divert are not experimental programs. They are design center of modern EMS systems, and they require permanent federal reimbursement pathways to scale. Second, the profession needs a national competence framework. Canada has built one tiered across destinations, organized around 8 integrated competency domains. The United States has no equivalent. We're asking NEMSAC to recommend FICOM's commission that work with ACP participation. Third, the paramedic workforce health is a system design issue, not a benefits question. We're asking that physical and psychological health infrastructure be recognized as the 16 elements of an EMS system. Fourth, ACP requests the formal advisory role in federal rural EMS and community paramedicine policies be deliberated. The full comment has been provided to NEMSAC, like I mentioned earlier, and the ACP welcomes engagement in the future. And that's the end of that comment. Another one was received from Jessica Sella. Jessica is a dedicated advocate for rare disease, as well as a member of the California EMS for Children's Advisory Committee. In her work, she's focused on the critical issue of implementing EMS protocols for patients who carry life-saving medications that are not standardly stocked on ambulances. Currently, in many states in the United States, first responders are not permitted to administer patient-carried medications, even in life-threatening situations. Tragically, this has led to patients losing their lives during transport with their medications within reach, but not able to be used. She strongly believes that NEMSAC can address this issue and could lead to significant advancements in nationwide and, most importantly, saving lives. She greatly appreciates the opportunity to discuss this future with council and explore potential collaborations on this vital matter. She thanks you for your time and consideration. Looks forward for the possibility of working together with you to make a meaningful impact. She's also sent along some protocol examples from Tennessee, and she wants me to thank Dr. Holly for leading the way. Again, this is from Jessica Sella, a rare disease advocate and member of the EMS for Children's Advisory Committee. And that is all the public comment that I have received. Is there any discussion on any of the public comment? The floor is open for that now. Or rather, any more discussion? Okay. Not seeing any hands. Let me check and see if there's public comment coming in from the live stream. It's a question, and I don't know if anyone can be able to answer. Maybe it's there just to something to acknowledge. An anonymous attendee has written a question asking if there's data that benefits the most. Is there data showing that the benefit is the most effective in rural areas, long transfers versus urban areas, short transfer? I believe this is in reference to pre-hospital blood transfusion. I believe that's about the time that they came in, but it's not clear. But just wanted to put that out there as something maybe to consider looking into. Oh, I just got another one. Will NEMSAC be able to research and advise how the federal government can support and incentivize recruitment and retention in rural volunteer services? That also was submitted anonymously. I don't see that there's a problem with doing research, but again, that's got to follow through with the normal proposal process where subcommittee member puts that through proposal and the council determines energy's warranted for that. It's obviously warranted, but the council has to work as a single voice. Okay. I am not seeing any more comments coming in. So we'll go ahead and close our period of public comment. So let's go ahead. I think I'm going ahead and wrap things up and go ahead and adjourn if there are no other discussion. One thing I wanted you to do, representatives, I know you're new, but I want you to consider all the speakers that you've heard from today, and the public, their comments that came in. Consider how the information provided and the topics you've suggested could work together to form an advisory for the future. Want you guys to start also considering future questions that you can bring before the council during the council meetings so that the public can offer their feedback on those. And consider talking with folks in the sector that you represent, hear what they have to say, and bring that to council meetings as well, so that new advisories can be born from those discussions. Feel like we've had a pretty productive and informative day today. It's a great first meeting. I want to thank the members of the public who have joined the meeting today as well. And thank you for council members for your willingness to serve as sector representatives and for discussions and planning you participated in today. I can actually feel the energy in the room, or the virtual room that is. It's pretty exciting, and I can't wait to see what comes about in the next 2 years. Like I alluded to earlier, the next NEMSAC meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, August the 5th, 2026. It's again Wednesday, August 26th, 2026. And this is all pending the notice publication in the Federal Register. Once that has published, it makes it official. But until then, it's not official. So stay tuned to the Federal Register notice about that in the coming weeks or months. If you don't subscribe to Federal Register notice, you can always subscribe to the notifications that the Office of EMS sends out. We send those out via ems.gov delivery. Subscribers get those. If you go to ems.gov, scroll down to the bottom of the page and look right as you're doing so, there's an opportunity for you to click on the EMS update. You can sign up for it. You can also sign up for the EMS focus webinars. Those are pretty informative, and we try to do those as quarterly or so. Again, ems.gov as well. You'll find those resources. Several other resources available for you there as well. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So
Second.
There's a motion on the floor to adjourn. It's been second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Generally, folks don't abstain, but if there's any abstentions, I'll hear them now. Hearing no objections or abstentions, this meeting is adjourned. We look forward to working with you in the future. Take care of yourselves. Have a great evening. Happy EMS week.